Hi there, Colin Klupik here. If you're going to be doing any kind of woodworking that involves simple wood joints with the use of hand tools, you're going to need to use a chisel. The question is, how sharp does the chisel need to be? Let's have a look at a couple of chisels that you might typically find, like in a school workshop or like the ones you might have lying around the house or in the garage. And let's ask the question, how sharp do they need to be? And how sharp could they be? These are chisels from a real school workshop, and this is typically what you'll find. They're very blunt, sometimes with dented and even rounded edges. Working with these will be very difficult. I've got another video on sharpening chisels, which I encourage you to check out as well, but that's not what we're looking at here. This is my set of chisels, which I've just sharpened in this footage. It's a set of Kinchrome chisels, available at Bunnings for about $30 each. A set like this, however, is about $80. This is what the blade looks like when it's brand new, straight out of the box. That's how most chisels start their life in a school workshop. You can see that the edge is perfectly ground to the right angle and looks quite good. The back also hasn't been flattened yet. Many of them don't get past this stage. This chisel first needs to be sharpened before use. I use a Japanese waterstone to sharpen chisels. It takes about 15 minutes per chisel when starting from a new chisel, and as you go, keeping them sharp using the same process then only takes about 10 minutes, as long as you keep monitoring them. Let it go too long and everything just takes longer. But you can see here that lovely mirror finish sharpened edge appearing. The honing angle isn't quite parallel to the edge of the blade, but that's okay. It's very difficult to get this perfect. Same thing on this 25mm chisel. I managed to get the honing angle a bit straighter this time. You can clearly see the difference between the area that's the original grind and the area that's been honed. Now, how sharp should they be? Let's use this corner half-lap joint out of pine to see the difference between sharp and not so sharp. You can see that the sharp chisel has no trouble cutting down along the grain. This old rusty chisel also seems to be able to cut out the timber, but it's taking much more effort, so it might be okay for roughing work. But let's take a closer look. The sharp chisel gets nicely into the groove made by the marking gauge. The rusty one is more difficult. It's also leaving a rougher cut. The sharp chisel is easier to align and leaves a smoother cut. The rusty chisel needs much more work to make the cuts and leaves a rougher result. Working the chisel harder also makes it just a little bit more hazardous and prone to slipping. Flipping the timber around to pare out some finer detail, you can see that the sharp chisel shaves away the waste easily. Nice little curls of timber with a flat surface result. The rusty chisel is much harder work and again leaves a rougher result. It's just a dud, really. Here you can clearly see the result of using the two chisels on the two sides of the joint. If I use the sharp chisel on the whole joint, like in this sample, you can see that the job is faster, smoother, and arguably safer. It's just a superior result all round. In my view, it's definitely worth being a little bit fussy about the sharpness of your chisels, especially in a school workshop. As well as being safer and easier to use, it says something about the environment you're trying to foster. And one more thing. This line here is a typical error made by students. It's where the saw cut line has gone just that little bit too deep. Something to watch out for. So you can see there are advantages to using a sharp chisel over a dodgy, not so sharp chisel. How long you spend sharpening the chisel, that depends entirely on you and the kind of work that you want to do, because do remember that you can spend the rest of your life sharpening a chisel. However, this level of sharpness would be the minimum that I would be willing to put up with. We'll see you in the next video.